We're standing in the oldest part of Jerusalem, just outside the walls of what's now known as the Old City. Actually, the Old City is younger than the area where we're standing. The walls of the Old City are 500 years old, while the ruins here date back more than 4,000 years. This area is known as the City of David. It's one of the most important archaeological sites in the world. But like the name of the area that we call the Old City, which isn't the oldest part of the city, this name is also confusing. Archaeologists have been searching for traces of the biblical King David, Jerusalem's most famous ruler, for 150 years. But so far, they haven't found any definitive evidence. Any stone in the City of David might be, or might not be, from the actual city inhabited by David. On this slope, you can clearly see the archaeological excavation zone known as Area G. During major excavations conducted in the 1960s by the renowned British archaeologist Kathleen Kenyon, different sections were labeled with letters of the alphabet. Most of these sections, like A, B, and C, were reburied and built over, but Area G has been preserved and you can visit. To the untrained eye, the ruins here look like a jumble. It's hard to make sense of the numerous overlapping structures, all built from local Jerusalem limestone. Logically, the oldest structures should be at the bottom, with more recent layers high up. But here in Jerusalem, it's rarely that simple. Looking at this archaeological cross-section, for example, we see one of the oldest structures near the top, while more recent ones lie below. This is counterintuitive, but it's simply because of the city's hilly topography. Jerusalem's ancient builders often preferred sites closer to the hilltop, and only later moved down the slope. The City of David is considered one of Israel's most challenging archaeological sites. It's also the most heavily excavated site in Israel, and one of the most excavated sites in the world. The city first emerged around a spring. Traces of human activity have been found from about 6,000 years ago. We also have written evidence from ancient Egypt, the neighboring superpower, known as execration texts. These are similar to voodoo dolls. They represent rulers of Egyptian vassal cities, including Canaanite cities that predated Jewish settlement. The texts contain terrible curses. If a city rebelled against Pharaoh, the text would be read aloud and a figurine broken. These vassal curses were routine in Egypt, beginning in the Old Kingdom and continuing into the time of the Middle Kingdom, about 4,000 years ago. It's around this time that a king of Jerusalem appears in these texts. The city is known as Urushalima, the original name of the city, having no connection to David or the Israelites, who at this point had yet to arrive. The Jewish history of Jerusalem begins, according to the biblical record, with King David's conquest about 3,000 years ago. Ironically, in the City of David, there's an absence of archaeological evidence from this specific period. We have evidence of Jerusalem from earlier and later periods, but not from the actual Jerusalem that King David captured. We can see the city in all its glory as a Canaanite city of the 13th or 12th centuries BCE, before David's conquest. We find some pottery shards from around the time of the conquest, but no buildings. It's a major archaeological conundrum. Looking at Area G, we see a jumble of structures made from local stone, all of them hard to date definitively. To discover the age of a building, we need its sealed context. Archaeologists have to find floors, break through them, and examine what lies beneath. When building floors, whether using stone slabs, packed earth, or tiles, workers drop various items, pottery shards, for example, or coins. This is material we can use to date the building's construction. The archaeological search for David's city, the Jerusalem that King David captured, is as old as modern archaeology itself. The quest began in earnest in 1865 with the establishment in London of the Palestine Exploration Fund, which still exists today. It was the first scientific organization dedicated to Holy Land research, with the stated purpose of worthily illustrating sacred scripture. That is, not exactly to establish historical truth, but to demonstrate the accuracy of the Bible. The Exploration Fund's very first document presents exploring the ancient city of David, the layer of Jerusalem's history from the late Bronze Age, as a primary objective. But while they made many fascinating discoveries, The Canaanite city they were looking for, the one conquered by David in the biblical narrative, remained frustratingly elusive. When we look at Area G, we see a massive stepped structure resembling a colossal retaining wall. This construction is called the stepped stone structure and has puzzled scholars for many years. By the late 19th century, researchers thought it might be connected to the Canaanite city that David captured. In reality, it's some kind of functional wall supporting another structure, rather than being the wall of a building itself. A small portion was discovered in the 1920s under British rule, with Kathleen Kenyon excavating most of it later in the 1960s when this part of the city was under Jordanian control. In the 1970s, Israeli archaeologists like Yigal Shiloh continued the work, revealing it entirely as we see it today. This stepped structure might be identified as a terrace wall supporting the slope, atop which the palaces of Canaanite rulers may have stood, and later David's palace, and perhaps that of his son, King Solomon. But this is conjecture. The truth is, we don't really know. What we can say for certain is that the local population, whether they were Canaanites or Israelites, had a remarkable habit of reusing stones. They would take stones from demolished buildings and incorporate them into new ones. Archaeologists working here are well aware of this practice. So if we're looking for a stone from the city ruled by David, anyone will do, even this one. We often see ancient stones appearing in more recent structures, scrambling the simple chronology that historians are looking for, and making the ancient past part of the present. The history we're looking for may not exist, or it may be staring us in the face. That's life in Jerusalem.